So thanks for joining us today to hear more about our interactive storytelling template. We built the template to help folks create interactive map-based stories with minimal code. Its basic structure is approachable even without coding experience, and it can be extended pretty easily if you have a bit more of a background in web development. Let's take a look at a couple of examples in the wild. This is from the San Francisco Chronicle. This is a walking route around San Francisco. With a number of different spots to go check out. And this one is from Al Jazeera. What we're seeing here is it really showcases how it's possible to customize the theme with rich media, full width overlays, and really beautiful typography. It's exciting and rewarding to see how this template enables storytellers to integrate geographic context and interactivity into these stories. And today we are going to show you how to get started using the template. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Lo, who will walk us through what that looks like.
Hey, everyone. I'm Lo. I'm a journalist and interactive dev and brand ambassador at Mapbox. So I'm going to walk through step by step while John is going to basically lead on his screen share. If you have any question, again, feel free to submit it in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer all of them at the end. So to use the solution, what you need is a Mapbox account and an access token and a text editor. All of those things. So the access token you can find on your Mapbox account. A text editor, you can pick one of choice. I use Atom, but there's also Sublime Text 2 and others that are free to download. That's entirely up to you. So the first thing you want to do in order to get started is actually download the template from GitHub. You do not need an account to GitHub in order to do that. You simply need to go to the repo. And once you're there, you can click on the big green button that says clone or download and download zip. And that will download a folder to your download folder. Once the download is done, in that folder, there will be another one that's called source, and that's the one we're interested in. Once you click on there, you will see another folder that's called Vanilla.js. This one is the one for beginners, and so that's the one we're going to focus on. Great. So in that folder, I'm going to describe the files that are in there. So there's going to be a config.js.template file. This is basically the template we are going to use to make this thing work. And we're going to go in depth later. The index.html file is the one that you'll open in your browser in order to see your progress. So every time you update a chapter, update a setting in the config file, you can check out the index.html file in your browser to see the changes. Then there's a third file that is called helper. And again, we're going to go into depth with the helper, but helper will basically be a way for you to get location information for each step of your map. But let's get started. It will make more sense once we are in the config folder. So the first step is to copy and rename the config folder to config.js, remove the template part in the name, and then open it with a text editor. So once you have this config.js file open, you will see a file with a bunch of settings and properties. So we're going to go through them quickly. So basically the top part of this is your basic setting. You have a style. This is where you're going to input the URL, the style URL from your map. That URL can be a basic URL that is a Mapbox style, a generic Mapbox style. In this case, this one is called Streets V11. So it's provided by Mapbox. You can also input a custom style by going to Studio and going into the share dialog box, copy the style URL and paste it over. This is optional. You do not need this for your basic template to work. Then you need an access token. This you will need to find it again on your account page. You can see find the access token there. There's other ways to find your access token, but they're pretty visible. So you want to copy your access token and copy that over. The next property is called show markers. It is defaulted to true. What this does is that it will show a marker at the center of the latitude, longitude at each step. So this is basically for basic usage. If you do not want to show a default marker, you can just turn it off. We're going to leave it on for now so that we can show you what it looks like. But there you go. So you see that blue marker will basically show exactly where you're pointing out, what you're pointing at in your story. Great. So the next thing is a theme, light or dark. This will just allow you to kind of switch things up easily. Again, if you're a little more advanced, you can customize the CSS, but this is here for your convenience. If the map is lighter or darker and you want the theme to match, this is what it's for. Then the next thing, the next property will be alignment. Again, this is pretty much up to you. Left, center, right. This will move the content either to the left, center, or right. This will depend on your story, etc. Next thing, the next four things are basically content related. Title, subtitle, byline, footer are all for you. They're all optional, but they're for you to fill out. And you can basically update them as you wish. Title, subtitle is going to be at the top. Byline is going to be right under subtitle, and the footer is going to be at the end of your story. Great. So now you see that this has been updated, the top part, and then the bottom part is the footer, which you will see once you scroll. So once you have that set up, that's when you start getting into the weeds, which is usually so when you deal with chapters. So what are chapters? A chapter, what we consider a chapter, is one of those boxes to the left that contains the content, right? For each chapter, what we're setting is basically a title, an image, a description. All of these are optionals. But the next thing that we're setting is something called location. Location is where you dictate what your map should do once that chapter enters the screen. So obviously you're going to tell me, like, how can I find this information? Well, this is where the helper.html file comes in. So what you can do is open this in your browser or go to, we have a demo on mapbox.com also that has the same helper. So the way this works is that you can actually search a location or just, pan and zoom to it. And on the upper left corner, the information is going to get updated, and you can copy this directly into your config file. So let's say, we are, yes, sure, Arkansas. We're gonna just copy that information, and we're gonna paste it in the config file. And for this chapter, the map will be set to center on Arkansas, and you can control the zoom, which is how far out you want the map to be, the pitch, which is how tilted the map will be, and the bearing, which is which orientation the map is going to be at. This is something you can repeat for each step. So we're going to do a couple more steps so that you can see the map move as you scroll. Let's say we want our next chapter to go to, I don't know, your pick, John. You pick where you want it to go.
Sounds good. We'll focus on DC.
Sure. Let's try to use the search option so that we can show folks how you can do this with search. Great. So again, you have your information, just copy and paste it over. And now we're going to show you how it moves. Basically, once you're done, you save, you open your browser, refresh your page, and you should see the changes. So we're in Arkansas, and as you scroll, it will take you to DC. So again, you'd repeat that process as many times as you wish. A couple of notes: you do not have to put a title, a description, or an image, but if you want to do so, you can, for the image particularly, you can use an image that you have on your local computer, which you can add to the images folder that's provided. And then you would have to put the path to that folder. In this case, it would be /images/ the name of your image, or you can use a URL, a direct URL to an image online. This will allow you to just input images. And also of note, in the description, you can, it does support HTML tags. So if you want to input a link, the other day I actually put a Twitter embed. So all of those things are possible with a little bit of tweaking. Great. So this is, the basic usage for this template. It's what most people will use it for. But of course, you can also use it in a more advanced way by adding custom layers to Studio, and then basically telling the template, hey, I want to show or hide this layer at this chapter. So we're going to show you how to do that really quickly. So to do that, you want to basically add a layer, so a couple of things. In order for the template to register the layer on your style, you will have to use a custom style with a layer on it. So the URL at the top for the style URL is going to have to correspond to a custom style. So in this case, this is a style that we created. So when you go to style in Mapbox Studio, you just say create basic style and pick the color, and this is what you get. In here, we added a specific layer that we styled. This is kind of beyond the scope of this webinar, but basically we use data-driven styling to style the data in it. So currently, this is the opacity of the layer. Depending on whether or not you want to show the layer as the template starts, you're going to want to set the opacity accordingly. So if we don't want the layer to show right away, we're going to set the opacity to 0 and leave it as is. The one thing that you will need from this screen is the name of the layer. In this case, it's counties-MTS. So you're going to copy that name over, and we're going to use this to control the layer opacity from the template. So you will see that there is 2 properties here. It's called on chapter enter and on chapter exit. These are pretty self-explanatory. Basically, when the chapter enters the screen, you're telling your map to do something, and then when the chapter exits, you're telling your map to do something else. In this case, we're saying on chapter enter, please pick this layer and change the opacity to 0.5. So what's going to happen here is that once we scroll to this chapter, the layer is going to be toggled to 0.5.
And I'm just going to set the location to one that I have saved. Another file.
Right. So in this case, the layer is showing the United States. You're going to want your location to, either be focused on one particular data point that you want to show, or in our case, we are going to want to show the entirety of the US. So you update your location. And then all you need to do is refresh the template. And scroll.
So we're still looking at Arkansas. This is the first tile, second one in DC, and then here's the third, and the layer turned on.
Right. So at this point, the layer is turned on. And again, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. If you have many layers, data points you want to show, highlight, you can customize each layer in Studio and then show them however you'd like in the template. Can you, John, can you show another example where there's more layers than just this one?
Sure.
Just maybe the example you showed earlier, just to, now that we have a good sense of how the template works.
So each of these is a separate layer in a studio style as we scroll down. This is one layer that's, I think it's counties by population. Same data, different version of it. We have a line layer. This one is actually part of the Mapbox streets data. So it's possible to actually highlight, one of the other labels or other layers that are by default in a base map and call them out to turn them on and off. This tab. That's like national parkland, I think, national forests.
Mm-hmm.
It's also possible to add raster layers if you have imagery that you want to display. And so in each case, in this example, we have layers turning on and off on chapter enter and on chapter exit.
One thing I wanted to note is that note that the chapter, a chapter can enter the screen twice, right? On scroll down and scroll up. So you want to make sure that you control your layers accordingly. You're going to run into some things sometimes. So you want to make sure that if you scroll up, the layer that is being turned on in the chapter below is being turned off in the chapter above, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so this is how it works. We're happy to take questions if you have them. And I'm going to open the Q&A. Okay, let's see. All right. So I'm going to start with the one that were asked earlier. Let's see. I see a lot of people asking if this tutorial would be posted online later. There is one, yes, and two, there also is a blog post with a detailed how-to on how to actually do this and even publish your final product to Glitch, which is a platform where you can easily share code templates. Let's see. Are we limited to XY points only? So no, you're not. So again, if you have a certain layer, like a line layer or a polygon, etc., you can upload it and then center on it. If the question is, can you pass like a boundary, like a BB box? Not yet. It's mostly, you'd center on the location. That would be for Zach. I hope I answered your question.
Hello, I have one from Samir asking what needs to be downloaded initially to be able to create the map. Mm-hmm. If you jumped in a little late, Samir, it is this code in Mapbox, github.com, the Mapbox organization and our storytelling repo. and you can just download the whole zip of this repository, or clone it if you prefer.
Is there a way to dynamically include the address points?
So at this point, that information you would get from searching for an address in this helper file, and then setting up the map, to be how you want it to look. Like maybe you'd want it tilted or a little closer in or a little farther away. And then those coordinates from the center of the map, you can copy this whole chunk right into your code without having to format it.
Great. Okay, I'm seeing some stuff coming in. Okay. Oh, I did not understand how to find the location helper. Hi, Paolo. So the location helper, once you download the template, there is a file that is called helper.html. However, there is also an online tool that is available without you don't have to use that file. John, you have the URL handy by chance?
Yes, it is demos.mapbox.com/location-helper.
Demos.mapbox.com/location-helper, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, I'm going to skip mine for now. Okay, is there a way to dynamically include address points? You already answered that one, John. Does the style property at the top support style object as well as style URLs? That don't think so. I think it supports style URLs only for now. I also don't know what you mean by style objects. Maybe the instant map instant for styling. What happens when you forget to turn on off a chapter? I'm not sure. I mean, what do you mean by turn on or off? You can always technically, I'm not sure if you said commenting out or turning off a layer or on. If you could just be a little more, give me a little more detail on that question, I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah, if it's a layer and it's not turned off when you exit the chapter scrolling up, then, I think while you're developing the story and kind of testing it, you'll notice, maybe a layer is still on that shouldn't be as you're scrolling around. So you may need to find where it was turned on, and then make sure that you add it to the on chapter exit action as well.
Right. That was, John, that was the question. Yeah. So that's what I meant. There are moments that you will see a layer that is popping up when it shouldn't. It's because you also need to turn it off if you've turned it on once as you scroll up, because it gets reactivated, right? Because I think what I was saying is that on chapter enter, your chapter enters the screen twice, when you scroll up and when you scroll down. So you have to keep that in mind, if that makes sense. Great. So let's see. Going through. Okay. Can I use this with Atlas on a disconnected network?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a matter of pointing your style URL to the Atlas instance. Mm-hmm. And I think I know when someone asked if this style property supports style objects.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, it only supports the URL at this point. it's not something that I thought about to parse a JSON object and apply the style. This would be something that is either a default Mapbox style or a custom map that you generate in Studio, either on mapbox.com or using Atlas.
And also, just so that you all know, we are open to feature requests. We can't guarantee that we'll take them all, but we are open for feedback as you use this template. Let's see. Is there a tutorial for how to create custom layers from our data? Yes, there are a lot of how-to videos, a lot of tutorial on our website. So if you go to our docs page and to our example page, there's a lot of that. There is, let me think, yes, it's definitely part of our basic tutorials on mapbox.com. I am happy to find the URL in a second for you. Is there an embed iframe option, or do you need to host the HTML code on your own server? Both. I will say, though, that iframing this is not the best option because it's a scroll, and scrolling in iframe is not great. That's from my own perspective. You can host the code on your own server, or you can also use something called Glitch, where you can, we have a Mapbox account on Glitch, with its glitch.com/@Mapbox, and the template is available there for you to use, remix, and then you can create your own URL with it, so that you don't actually have to put it on your server, but on the Glitch server. Again, that's glitch.com/@Mapbox.
Oh, @Mapbox.
Yeah, glitch.com/@Mapbox. And that's where you'd have the templates. There's yeah. There you go. So you should have template, the Mapbox storytelling with layers, the Mapbox storytelling template, which is empty. There's an example that's called election storytelling. And then there's a Mapbox storytelling with the markers. So there's basic usage, layers, just a template. If you click on those and you want to basically remix them and use them, you can. Okay. Are there limits for chapters? No. You can put as many chapters as you'd like. Let's see. How would you embed a YouTube video into the image area? You can just use the YouTube embed code, I guess. If there's a script with it, you're going to want to put that script tag into index.html. You would basically put the HTML in the description, and then whatever JavaScript or code that comes with the embed, you would put it in the index.html file. It's a little more advanced, but it's doable. Can you show us a completed project? John showed a couple examples at the beginning. I also have some from,
Sorry about that.
I also have, no worries. I also have, there is also some example from Al Jazeera that we showed at the beginning, the San Francisco Chronicles. I have a couple of examples on Glitch. So I think we showed a couple of those.
Yeah, and there are also a couple of examples in the code. Actually, I'll switch to that sound that played earlier. I was trying to find a YouTube video appropriate to embed and decided against it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll go to the code here, and in the examples, there are 2 examples in plain JavaScript and 1 in React. But if we go into the plain JavaScript, you can see the index.html and a config file. And this has a number of different layers that turn on and off as you scroll through the story.
Okay, next question. Is the template mobile friendly? Yes, on mobile it will just center basically. The div or the content will center. So yes, it is mobile friendly. Are you planning on adding more features to the template? Yes, we have some features planned, or wishful features. We have one that is going to come out. You can control, possibly control the duration of the layer so that the layer will take, you can say, hey, I want this layer to fade in like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, not immediately. So you can control that. There are other things, there are optimization on mobile that we want to tackle, and possibly, but not 100% certain, some animation stuff. So like, let's say you want a circle layer to pulse or something. That would be another one. John, can you think of anything else that we want to add?
Well, we have a few items listed in the repo.
All right. Yeah. I mean, if you go to the repo and you go to the issues, you'll see what's in progress, what's in the works, and there's people also submitting issues that we may or may not be able to, attend to, as far as like feature requests and stuff like that.
Yeah. But if you encounter issues using the template, or if you have a feature request, you can submit it here. Like Lo said, we'll need to prioritize what we're capable of doing, and when, but we can certainly take feedback here.
Can stories be made using the satellite image version of a map? Yes. You can use a satellite style basically, and this will work the same way. Actually, John, you could go to the glitch example with layers, which is the fire map. Yeah, so if you go to the Mapbox storytelling layers, and you can put that full screen. Yeah, so this uses, Sorry. Yeah, this uses satellite and terrain. So yes, you can. And on Zoom also, satellite layer is available. Okay, do you provide free token for the nonprofit? So basically, Mapbox, the way Mapbox works is that if you sign up, you get a token, and we have a free tier, which if you're a nonprofit, I will say you're unlikely to hit. And if you do, as a nonprofit, you are eligible, but you can reach out to our community team, and they will take care of you. Any plans to make an RL style photo story? Appreciate it. Not sure. Let's see. Is this mobile friendly? Yes. Clickable points on the map. I'd like to allow a user to exploit points on the map. Yeah. So that's a thing that we are also exploring. The way the template is set up is currently, if you're scrolling, the map is not accessible. We are exploring options to turn turn that on and off, or maybe have it happen at the end of the story, or have a way for you to turn that on based on the chapter you're on. But it's a bit of a it might be a bit of a technical challenge at the moment, but we are looking into it. Can't guarantee that we're going to find a solution, but we're looking into it.
Yeah, and Lo, I think beyond, it's less of a technical challenge and more of a sort of user experience design challenge. The lack of that kind of interactivity was definitely intentional when we put this together, because the idea is that you present the the details of your spatial analysis in a very contained way. So, you have a way to guide the reader's eye, help them focus on the item, the piece of the map that you want them to see while they're reading that piece of content. So, as Lo mentioned, adding interactivity is something that we're keeping in mind, and we're thinking about how to do that without sort of breaking the easy flow of presenting your map data in a scrolling format.
Do you have any examples with visualizations layered on top, such as a flight path? We just showed a couple earlier. Flight path would be very similar. You just add the flight path to Studio. I mean, obviously, if you have the data, and then you can work from there. Can you embed a Tableau interactive visualization on the page to go along with the story? I have not used Tableau, but again, the description text supports HTML tags. So if you can put the HTML tags in the description and then add whatever JavaScript script comes with the embed in the HTML.index in the script section of HTML in index.html, then it should work. Any embed should work. You just have to do a little bit of extra work, but once it's done, it should work.
Yes, it will work. I've seen Alan Walker, our colleague, work with Tableau a lot, and he put together a visualization that has a Tableau viz embedded, and then some other like 3D model that rotates as you scroll. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so that answers this. Do I need to install this to get started? I'm a beginner. This was answered already by Dom. What are the main differences from ArcGIS story maps and benefits to convince colleagues to use this instead? Honestly, I've never used ArcGIS story maps, and I've worked at Mapbox 2 years, but I've been using Mapbox even before that. So I'm not sure. I think, that's going to be, I'm not sure. John, have you used story maps before?
I've used them in the previous version a few years ago. Those are, they're pretty easy to use. They're more point and click. And I don't know, there's a new version that I looked at recently. I think it really comes down to, what software your organization is using, and whether you're, if that's the preference, where you work.
And benefits to convince colleagues to use this instead. I'm happy to talk to you and try to help convince your colleague if you'd like. And if you want to email me, it's lo@mapbox.com. I'm happy to walk you through what you can do with Mapbox and talk to you further. How to set up size and embed in a website. So again, I think this is more of a full page experience. Having an embed, or let me take that back. If you are going to put it on the website, you can definitely put it within the code of the website. I just would not put it in an iframe, because scrolling within an iframe is not great. It won't work on some mobile browser, and scrolling in the window and then having another iframe where you scroll is usually not a great user experience. However, you can do it, but you will have to put this template on the server somewhere, or you can use Glitch again. would there be a way to turn off the display box with images, text, so you can see the full map description? Yeah, so we are, that should be fairly straightforward, but we're adding a feature where you can hide the box. So if you decide to just not have chapters and hide it, or hide some of them, or hide all of them, we're gonna make that possible with a hidden property, right, John?
Yeah, that's correct. And in the meantime, there's a CSS block at the top of the HTML page, and if you wanted to add an ID that matches the ID in your config file, you could say, display none or visibility is hidden on that style, and that particular block won't be visible, but it will still trigger a layer to turn on or off if you have it configured to do so. So it's a bit of a hack at this point. We'll support it soon, but it definitely works.
Do you have sample view with 3D building vectors? My use case is embed my data into 3D map layer. I mean, yeah, go ahead, John.
This, a few, let's see. My bandwidth is suffering. So the way that this data is extruded, it works the same way with extruded buildings. So if you have those buildings turned on in your studio style and you zoom in to the point where they're visible, it'll definitely work smoothly with this template.
Can we dig into the code to try to make it interactive instead of waiting? Hi, Desiree. If you're still online, I'm not sure. Do you mean like clicking on the map and being able to move the map? Not. Just curious if you want to, if you could.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, this code is open and you can do pretty much whatever you want with it. If you go into that, actually over here, the HTML at the bottom is where the JavaScript is that controls the interactivity. If you want to go in and add or change any of this, go for it.
Yeah, and feel free to ask or like to kind of expand on your question. But yeah, so all right, where do you use this type of storytelling? That's a great question. I think this type of storytelling is really good when you're trying to show or highlight data points rather than have a user explore a whole set of data. So I think that often you'll upload a data set and you'll want people to be able to click and point and explore a whole thing. But if you want to kind of gently guide your user through a story, this is very useful, especially for like reporting or even, just doing even a tour of a city or something like that, right? It's more of a guided experience. So that's where I see the storytelling being useful. Right. Okay. Yeah. How to set the exact boundaries in both mobile and desktop. The second slide, control the map, shows Florida in desktop, but not in mobile. That is a feature we're working on. So when I was talking about mobile optimization, that's kind of one of our top priority is to figure out how we can allow you to basically change the location on mobile based on screen size, because yes, that's a known issue. So we're working on it sooner rather than later. So that's a work in progress. Hopefully it'll be. Thanks. If you could send me the link to Alan Walker's example with Maps, Tableau 3D, that'd be great. Sure, I will. in John, I don't know if you have it handy somewhere. I don't, but it's Tiffany's answer from Metro.
Yeah, I can look for it. He tweeted about it within the last 2 weeks.
James Valens, you need to create an Esri user guide to switching over to Mapbox. Thanks, James. I will work on that. Not a bad idea. Appreciate it. Okay. Can you have the chapter animation go across the map instead of a fade transition? So like have a movement instead of setting onto a location and fade. So kinda. I mean, there are some hacks where you can set a chapter, hide a chapter, and then set the location halfway to the next chapter. So set up chapters 1 with a location and set a second chapter that is halfway to your next chapter and hide the middle chapter. But there's no like, right now there's no, hey, when I get to this chapter, go from A to B, if that's what you're asking. It's mostly right now you have fade transition. We might have some animation on dots and lines, etc., but it doesn't have go from A to B feature yet. I see. You mentioned that you were working on making the map interactive in a later version as it's static now. So I thought maybe we could just work on that ourselves. John seems to be saying it's possible since the code is open source. Sounds good. Thanks. Yes. Yes. Great. John got your question the first time around. Yes, you can definitely work on it. I mean, one way you can do this is basically like tell your story and then at the end of the last chapter, like maybe hide the top div that's at the top and then have the map be clickable, et cetera, et cetera. I'll let you figure it out. I'm sure you can tinker with it. So I think I got all the questions. There's one question about R.L. Stein style. I will pass on the request to our map designer, but for now, no. But we could. Okay, I think, let me see. Yeah. I think we got to all the questions. Yeah, okay. Paolo, control the boundaries on map and desktop. Again, working on that. Right. You know, I put a few questions, but I feel like we've answered a lot of it. Yeah, I think we've answered a lot of the questions that I had put ahead of time. So I think that's it. Unless anyone has any other questions, we have 4 minutes, burning questions. What I want to say is that if you have questions, I'm available on Twitter. I'm fairly responsive. If you need help with setting up the template or you don't understand something or you're getting stuck, you can tweet at me. It's at Lobenishu. LOBENICHOU. And also you can email me. It's lo@mapbox.com. And you can also email John, or I can pass on your questions to John. Again, we're in communication quite a lot with this. Hope you enjoyed. And also the one thing that I will ask for those of you who attended the webinar is that if you do create something, tag us on Twitter and or add feature requests, send us feedback, because we just want to make this better for users, and feedback is always welcome. We can't really figure out what's good if it's, it's not being used or shared with us. So let us know.